Howdy, 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 my name's Anachi Sasuke, and I have a spatula. Now, I was gonna do a joke where I was gonna be like, hi, my name is Anachi Sasuke, and I'm coming to you live with a spatula. Now, the first reason I wasn't gonna do that joke is because it's not live, it's recorded. I couldn't go live if I wanted to. And the second reason I wasn't going to do that joke was because I didn't really want to use my webcam for the entire video, because I just don't really like to use my webcam, because I don't like my face. But then I remembered it's Tuesday, and the whole reason I have a spatula is because last Halloween, not like this past Halloween, but last year, I decided I was going to be the hash-slinging slasher for Halloween, and Halloween landed on a Tuesday, so I was like, Tuesday night! I bumped into the microphone, sorry, Tuesday night! And then I didn't know where the spatula was for a year, and this past weekend I got the spatula back. So I was like, okay, it's Tuesday, I got a spatula, I can hash slinging! But, I also don't know whether or not I have the ability to turn off the webcam mid-recording. I tried that once, and I think the video had a heart attack. So, we're just gonna roll with it. And I guess you'll just get to see my face this one time, and then not anymore until I'm like 29. So, in the last episode we read The Youth Cult, The Kingdom of Sand, Paradise Falls, Brownies, and Seed Bead. I had someone explain to me why it's called Brownies, because there's, some sort of folklore with fairies in the UK. Fairy godparents! Maybe I should take off my glasses so there's not a glare. But without my glasses, I can't read. So, seeing as it's Let's Read, the SCP Foundation Wiki probably need these. So, sorry about the glare. Let's see. This time we're going to be reading The Unwitting Dream Shaper, A New You, There Was a Crooked Man, and Christmas Cheer, and also a chain restaurant. I guess it works out that we would reach Christmas Cheer in December, even though I did not mean to do that. Christmas Cheer should have happened, like, October. So let's check out that there Dream Shaper. They're not Keter. They're Euclid. SCP-781 is to be contained within a reinforced cell with a buffer zone at least 25 by 25 meters surrounding it. Once again, rooms have 3 dimensions. Why is there 2? Subject's cell should include a bed, bathroom, and limited forms of entertainment as approved. So, you know, books, porn, what you use in a jail cell. I assume you have porn in a jail cell. You probably don't have. As soon as the subject initiates sleep, usually at 100 hours. What is that, 8 p.m.? I think it's 8 p.m. All personnel present in the main containment chamber should evacuate. All personnel are prohibited from interfering with any situation within 781's chamber between 8 o'clock and 7 in the morning. Despite any pleas for aid or attention from 781, see Addendum 5. Oh, that's not good. 781 is to be interviewed each morning at 7 a.m. by Dr. Glass. Any personnel seeing 781 in their dreams are to report to Dr. Glass for documentation. 781's remains should be collected and placed in the middle of his containment chamber after any incident resulting in its death. SCP-781 appears to be a human male of Mediterranean descent, approximately redacted, years old as of blankety-blank 2010, unless that's 1910. However, when he was first recovered in 1997, he appeared to be approximately redacted years old. Autopsies performed on the subject have determined 781 to be physiologically identical to average humans. The reasons for any anomalies surrounding 781, including decreased rate of aging, are unknown. Traffic, if you'd be so kind as to shut up while I'm trying to do this, that'd be great. It is thought that while asleep, 781 involuntarily manifests his own dream content into a physical form. Ooh, that doesn't sound good. The majority of these manifestations are hostile and highly dangerous, and on average, 781 is killed 3 times a week. Testing using disposable dudes shows that these manifestations specifically target 781 over other potential victims, but are capable of harming others should they attempt to interfere. So, if he's getting attacked, like, by, I guess, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, but with claws made of cease and desist papers for that reference, then... And they were like, hey man, leave him alone! I'll hit you with this spatula! And then he would turn around like, and then kill them. The roar would probably sound better than that. I just should have drank water first. It seems that though it is required that 781 be asleep to create manifestations, it is not required that he continue sleeping for their continued existence. That's not good. Thankfully, these manifestations are not wholly independent of their creator, and always remain relatively close to 781, up to a range of about 9 meters. It's not that close. 1 meter is 3 feet, so 9 meters is 27 feet. So that means that, like, if I was this dude, and I had one of these dream creatures following me, like some sort of sky blue tiger that just likes flipping the bird a lot, and he would just be constantly 27 feet away in the distance, in the shrubs, just going... I don't like that. Let's see. Manifestations that are even partly forced out of this range immediately disappear entirely. Okay, so if I just do a barrel roll out of the 27 feet unless they chase me, manifestations seem to linger for upwards of 5 minutes even after 781's physical death. Lastly, and importantly, it is to be noted that 781 seems capable of auto-resurrection. Though the subjects do not exhibit resistance to injury or death beyond the limits of a normal human, 12 hours after 781's physical death, any remains of its corpse disappear. Another 12 hours later, a fully healthy 781 appears within 10 meters of its place of its previous death. Does it know this? Or does he know this? Since they keep going back and forth between it and he? Further notes. While 781 seems to display no control over his own dream manifestations, testing has shown that he is capable of perceiving and manipulating the dreams of sleeping subjects in his vicinity. This ability was helpful in determining the source of 781's manifestations. Document 1. Most of his nighttime manifestations are hostile to him, and are quick to cause him harm. The majority of manifestations never repeat themselves, but there have been cases where reoccurring manifestations have occurred. The following is a list of some of the manifestations seen more than once. Dung dung! Sewage bursting from the floor, accompanied by a seemingly unending swarm of rats, which quickly overwhelm 781 and proceed to devour him alive, leaving only bones and bits of flesh. Has been observed twice. A large woman holding a hose which seems to extend from the ground, which she forcibly inserts into his throat. The hose seems to expel a thick white liquid, which the woman uses to drown 781. Has appeared twice. Let's just assume it's milk or glue, and not the third thing it could have been, because this wiki is not above that joke. A large humanoid figure about 15 feet tall, made up of a transparent and highly acidic substance, has appeared twice, both times after interviews with personnel other than Dr. Glass. Tends to grapple 781 in its arms until death due to major acid burns or suffocation. I don't want to know what it feels like to suffocate from the acid before it burns you to death. I've not really ever been in a situation where I had to worry about it, though. And I don't intend on it. A large floating mass with several tendrils bearing sharp needle-like spines, which forcibly drew 781 into it. Sounds like the ball is sharp except it moves. 781 died 2 hours later from blood loss. Appeared 3 times in the space of a month, but has not been seen since. An old woman with rotting flesh, which attacks 781 with her teeth and nails. Typically, 781 is able to fight back, but almost always sustains heavy wounds which require it to be euthanized by personnel. Has appeared 3 times. It's an old lady with rotting flesh, though! How difficult could it be to fight back against that? Like, if she's got rotting flesh, her nails and teeth are probably also in bad shape. Even if she was not rotting, she is still an old woman unless her teeth are made of titanium and her nails are made of hatred. Probably. Probably. A man wearing a surgical mask who straps 781 to its bed and proceeds to slice its abdomen open with a scalpel, removing several organs. Has appeared 3 times, each time after an autopsy was performed on 781. Makes sense. A statue resembling data expunged. It is not observed physically harming 781, but seems to cause the subject great distress, and often 781 is passed out from hyperventilation at the site of this manifestation. Sorry. This particular manifestation has appeared 4 times now, starting on the day 781 was exposed to data expunged. See Evaluation Log 781 for extended psychological evaluation and testing. If anybody wants to see that, let me know and I'll pull it up in a sidestep episode. Addendum 2. When introduced to SCP-452's presence, both showed signs of agitation and distress. When questioned, 781 merely stated that spiders made him uneasy. When 452's web was introduced to 781 for the purpose of stopping the dreams, testing had no unusual results until data expunged, resulting in 12 personnel casualties. Further testing between 781 and 452 were discontinued, and 781 should be kept from making physical contact with the webs at all costs. Testing SCP blank with 781 as its subject had highly unusual results. After several tries, 781 was able to completely control the smoke's composition, though it took him time and a considerable concentration. Further testing of SCP blank is prohibited, as giving 781 the ability to create anything he wants is, for obvious reasons, greatly discouraged. Addendum 4. By orders of L5 blank, as of blankety blank 2000, personnel are no longer to interfere in the nightly attacks. It has been determined that the personnel casualties and resource expenditure needed to protect 781 can no longer be justified, as continued interference has only caused the manifestation to become more dangerous and volatile, and 781's immortal nature has been fully proven in any case. Addendum 6. 781 has been highly successful in controlling SCP-122. It could be the Foundation's advantage to use the controlled 122 for data expunged. Addendum 7, see Incident Log 122178X, which isn't here. Maybe it's there. What is 122? It's Keter. Is there even an incident log? Are we just... okay, we'll never know. We will never know. Yep. So next up is... All New You, which sounds like it might be, Dr. Wondertainment, but might not. It's safe, okay. All known copies of 782 are to be kept in storage site blankety blank. Blank copies are currently in storage. The number of existing copies is unknown. Mobile Task Force Kappa Blank, the Bookworms, is tasked with searching... would it be... okay, well, Mobile Task Force is. The Bookworms are. Tasked with searching libraries, used bookstores, and thrift stores for copies still in circulation. Copies of 782 must be stored in a low humidity environment to discourage decomposition. If possible, personnel handling copies of 782 should not be able to be capable of reading English. English literate personnel are to treat 782 as a Gabriel 7 level memetic threat. I don't know what that means. I assume some of y'all know what that means, but I don't know what that means. Description: 782 is an anonymously published self-help book titled 3 Easy Steps to an All-New You. No author is listed, and its publisher blankety blank closed in 1990-something. As blank blank was a so-called vanity publisher. None of the individuals associated with it claimed to remember such a book, or indeed most of the books they published. In addition, all of blank blank's records were destroyed when its CEO, blank blank, burned down the company's head office in an attempt to commit insurance fraud. Insurance fraud? Due to these factors, 782's unknown origin should not be considered paranormal in nature. When 782 is read by an individual capable of understanding its content and message, it has a Type P memetic effect upon the victim. It alters the chemistry, connections, and even architecture of the brain. 782's effect occurs in 3 stages. The 3 stages occur in various areas of the body over time, generally taking 7 to 14 months. Though, rarely, it can happen over a single month. Less than a single month. The first stage of the effect is that the victim begins to feel numbness in random places on the body. The numbness usually goes away. The second stage is that the victim is no longer able to control those areas. The affected individual has no way of influencing the movement of the affected body parts beyond manipulating the body parts the affected areas are attached to. The victim is still capable of sensation through affected areas. Essentially, the affected areas can send signals to the brain but not receive them. The second stage is typically brief, generally lasting 1 to 3 days. And the third and final stage of 782's effect, the affected area begin to engage in autonomous movement. The movement of the affected areas may be completely at odds with the desires of the victim, and affected body parts frequently engage in activity uncharacteristic of the victim's personality. The body parts will attempt to achieve goals and perform tasks independent of the desires of the victim. If hands, mouth, and throat all become affected, communication becomes difficult, if not impossible. Once communicative organs become affected, they will almost invariably begin to attempt communication on behalf of another mind. At this point, it becomes clear that the various affected body parts are not independent from each other, but controlled by another will. Eventually, the total body is controlled by the secondary will, which becomes the dominant consciousness of the body. The new personality shares no memories with the old, although they will share all of its subconscious memories, i.e. skills and language. The new personality is no more likely to be malicious than a member of the general population. Document 1. The following document is a collection of case reports of 782 incidents from the notes of Dr. Blank. Case A. Victim is 47 years old, male Caucasian, no history of mental illness, local priest, campaigned against the same-sex marriage bill in the state of blank, checked into a local hospital for mysterious numbness, shift progression began in hands, victim demonstrated an apparent sudden increase in artistic talent, occasionally the hands drew imagery described by the victim as homoerotic. Shift progressed next to genital area. Victim reported unwanted sexual arousal, described as homosexual. Shift progressed, victim eventually took his own life. Autopsy concluded cause of death due to suffocating on tongue, detached via laceration by the teeth. Case 782 Abja. Victim is 16-year-old female of African descent, diagnosed with attention deficit disorder, not considered relevant. Checked into local hospital for mysterious numbness. Shift progression began in throat. Victim would vocally beg for help, claiming to be trapped inside a strange body she couldn't control. Victim confirmed through written communication that she was no longer in control of her speech. Speech will be distressed despite a lack of corresponding body language. Shift progressed to rest of body. Speech became less troubled as more body parts came under the new consciousness's control. As the victim's hands shifted quickly, the mental condition of the original personality for the final year of its existence is unknown. Girl administered Class A amnestics, returned to family, currently living normal life, albeit under Foundation observation. Akba. Victim is 32-year-old male Asian, no history of mental illness, checked into local hospital due to sudden, inexplicable blindness. Regained eyesight, returned home. Shift very quickly spread to hands and arms. Due to unknown reasons, victim did not seek medical attention. Shift very quickly spread to legs. Victim did expunge wife and daughter against his will, begged responding police to kill him. Currently in Foundation custody, site blank. Shift is not yet total. Document A. For the purposes of research personnel, the following is an excerpt from 782. As it is not being read directly from 782, reading the following document is harmless. The first step to an all-new you is rejecting the old you. You've got to throw away all your baggage, all your hang-ups, discard all the failings of the old you. The second step is to find the new you. The best way to find the new you is to look deep inside, find your childhood dreams and your secret fantasies, and embrace that as the new you. The third step is to embrace the new you. You need to allow the new you to completely replace the old you, so that the old you is no more. That's creepy. Next up, there was a crooked man. I was thinking of stopping the recording so I could turn off the webcam and then turn it back on and be like, ooh, look at that, I disappeared, woo! But I'm not going to do that. I just gotta hope that the recording doesn't crash. That would suck. That's uncomfortable. And it's Gator! What the fuck? Okay, I am going to stop the recording. I will not turn off the webcam, but I do want to drink some water without, like, being stared at. Yeah. Alright, so, special containment procedures. Personnel must monitor the town of Tembe and continue to develop the entity's profile. Its victims are to be retrieved, incinerated, and cataloged in this file. Update. Due to recent events, a stronger Foundation presence has been determined to be necessary for the containment of 783 and its related phenomena. An ancillary building near the local hospital, as well as 2 domiciles, have been commandeered from the locals for Foundation use. This property in its entirety has been redesignated as Provisional Site 5. Okay. SCP-783 is a hostile entity currently preying upon the residents of Tembe, a rural hamlet in Oxfordshire, England. It has a period of activity lasting roughly 70 days over the fall and winter months, occurring every 12 years. It exclusively attacks those who are alone, and indoors after sunset. Buildings housing 783's current target will experience a steady degradation of their structural integrity. Outwardly, this is visible as faults and breaks on the outer facade. Facade facade, I'm pretty sure it's facade, which lend affected structures an angled or crooked appearance. This anomaly extends to any objects which breach the affected building's exterior, causing immediate and severe deformation that is invariably fatal to living subjects. To date, personnel have yet to prevent an attack or been able to provide any means of assistance to 783's targets. Due to this, as well as 783's effects on recording equipment, little is known regarding his exact appearance and the nature of its anomalous attributes. Victims of 783 attack exhibit gross deformations in their body structure as the result of dozens of compound fractures along their long bones and severely displaced vertebrae. These are healed via the rapid generation of excessive cartilage and osseous tissue. Victims display hyperelasticity of their epidermis and musculature to accommodate the extra tissue, with one subject's forearm extending over 2.4 meters and another having a recorded height of 12 meters. And I'll remind you that 1 meter is just over 3 feet, which means that person was 36 feet tall. Yeah. Okay. The end result of this malformation and elongation are subjects who visually present as being wholly serrated or gnarled. Despite the nature of these injuries, most victims are alive after the cessation of an SCP-783 attack, though they only suffer often suffer full body paralysis or remain in a persistent vegetative state. 27 living victims have been acquired and placed on life support. They are held in a wing of the local hospital requisitioned for Foundation use. The residents of Tembe are aware of the existence of SCP-783, though speaking of it publicly is considered taboo. Researchers have documented a playground song shared among local youth regarding this anomaly. There was a crooked man who made a crooked deal. He kept a crooked cane and his catch in crooked creel. He stole a crooked child who cried a crooked squeal, and that crooked little man was broken on the wheel. Observation. Incident log appended. A month prior to 783's current period of activity, Disposable 209 was selected from a group of volunteers to live in a Foundation-owned property in Tembe. Audio-video recording equipment was installed throughout the house for observation purposes. The following was recorded on the 43rd day of his stay. They're lying upright in bed reading a novel. In the living room, live feed experiences a jagged vertical distortion in its display. This begins on the left side of the frame, near the front door, and crosses over to the right side towards the hallway. It lasts approximately 23 seconds. First floor hallway. Floodlights from the window opposing the camera frame are obscured by something entering the hallway. A similar distortion effect occurs center frame, masking the object. The image quality further degrades before ceasing transmission. Second floor bedroom. Disposable 209 jerks upright, alert. Claims to hear a slow, prolonged scratching sound coming from the first floor. He begins to get out of bed. Note, 783 manifestation confirmed, visual distortion taken to be an indicator of its physical placement within the house. The first floor hallway, distortion can be seen on the left of the frame as 783 enters from the living room. The image becomes wavy and distorted. Movement can be seen, though the interference is such that no details can be made out. Slow, deliberate footsteps can be heard ascending the stairs. 209 attempts to open the window and escape, to no avail. Second floor bedroom. 209 procures a small lamp from the nightstand and makes several attempts to smash through the window. Second floor hallway. Sudden video corruption affects this feed as 783 moves directly in front of the camera. The image resolves over the span of 33 seconds as it moves farther down the hall. At this point, the only affected area on the recording is immediately outside the bedroom. 209 freezes. A knock is heard at the door. 209 approaches the door, wielding the lamp as a cudgel. He asks for the individual at the door to identify themselves, receiving no response. He then asks control if any personnel were able to gain entry. Observing personnel maintain radio silence. He braces himself and grasps the doorknob with his free hand and throws the door open. A loud snapping noise is heard throughout the house. All light bulbs on the premises burst simultaneously, including floodlights focused on the property. 2 minutes later, once the camera adjusts to low light conditions, 783 comes into view. It is near the open door to the hallway, motionless. 209 is screaming, clutching his right arm. It has been fractured just above the elbow and dangles freely. It is observed to swiftly harden, presumably due to rapid bone growth. 209 shouts his intent to escape with his life and charges from the room. I see that you're making the words crooked. I did not miss that. Don't do that. Don't do that. As 209 runs past the bathroom, a loud snapping noise is heard. Falls to the ground and screams for assistance. He reports that his leg had been broken. Video corruption instantly begins to affect the kitchen as the sound is made, ceasing in the bathroom. 209 is able to bring himself to a stand. He displays his right arm for the camera, which has been broken below the elbow. It is angled in the opposite direction from the previous fracture. 209 curses observing personnel, but reports that his pain has mostly subsided. He limps towards the stairs. While trying to navigate the stairs, he trips and falls. 12 loud snaps are heard in rapid succession. Upon coming to rest, 209 exhibits several more fractures in various places along each limb. He screams as they set and spasms on the landing. 209 begins to ambulate. He struggles to crawl, eventually passing out of frame. First floor living room. 209 can be seen dragging himself into the room. He strains, moving with great difficulty due to his cumbersome limbs. Each arm is estimated to be over 2 meters in length, with several inflexible breaks that inhibit motion around the obstacles. 783 demanifests. Visual feed clears. 209 occupies the majority of the living room. His lower legs stretch out of frame into the hallway. He has a hand on the knob of the front door, but the length of his fingers impairs the dexterity required to manipulate it. A scratching sound is audible in the hallway. 209 expresses distress immediately before being dragged backwards forcibly and off camera. He begins to scream. 783 and 209 remain in the hallway for the duration of the night. Snapping is heard intermittently. 209 ceases screaming at 427. At 501, a wet suckling noise can be heard, followed by a rapid thumping. Concurrent with the noises heard at 501 during the 209 trial, all 27 living victims in the Foundation care went into seizure. Despite the fact that the majority were brain dead or wholly paralyzed, they convulsed for several minutes. 2 present researchers were injured during the incident. Life support systems for several patients were compromised, killing 5. A vast quantity of earth was disturbed on the outskirts of town during this time. Update! Personnel tasked with investigating the recent seismic event were met with resistance from Tempe locals who crowded around an area in a field to the south of town. After a brief exchange, Agent Collins drew her firearm and discharged a round into the air. The crowd dispersed. Several elongated toes were immediately visible protruding from the freshly exposed earth. A dig team was assembled and by the following afternoon had unearthed a mass grave, approximately 5 meters across, containing several dozen nude victims of 783. The bodies were well preserved, yet desiccated. Their number was unable to be immediately ascertained owing to the fact that they had been piled atop one another. They were oriented head down with their arms extending deeper into the pit. Furthermore, most of the victims' limbs had become intertwined or knotted around each other, preventing exhumation without the use of sawing instruments. Researcher Singer elected to extract a tissue sample. During this process, the soil beneath him caved and he tumbled into the pit. The body shifted due to his weight. As he struggled to gain footing, the tangle of limbs gave way and he fell out of sight. Agent Collins promptly commandeered a length of rope and tied it around her waist. She tasked several nearby personnel with reeling her in upon her signal and entered the pit. Approximately 20 meters worth of rope was drawn beneath the corpses as Agent Collins descended. The line became taut after several minutes. She signaled for extraction and was recovered safely. Upon debrief, the agent testified to the existence of an anomalous locale, the entrance to which is located beneath the victims' corpses. A temporary leave of absence was granted to Agent Collins. I am going to go ahead and assume she came back crooked, since it's doing that. Initial disposable exploration for observational purposes, retrieval of MIA personnel secondary objective. Special operative dispatched to further ascertain the nature of 783, pending declassification. Mobile task force deployed to contain 783, pending declassification. Data expunged. How long is this? I'm going to bookmark this and we'll come back to it. SCP side things to come back to. I'm definitely coming back to that, but not right now. It's too weird. It's far too weird for me to want to do that right now. But we'll certainly come back to it. So, the Christmas cheer is Euclid. 784 has been disguised as a gated community and is currently surrounded by a 3.5 meter high, 0.8 meter thick concrete wall to deter intrusion. The top of the wall is lined with electrified steel cable, and the gate is to be locked. Any non-Foundation personnel attempting to enter 784 are not to be interfered with, due to the possibility of provoking a violent reaction from the occupants of 784. Non-Foundation personnel exiting 784 are to be detained, questioned, and released following administration of Class B amnestic. Foundation personnel entering 784 are to be dressed in traditional Christmas wear prior to entering 784. The area composing 784 is to be monitored remotely by a Foundation-controlled weather balloon. In the event that personnel are required to enter 784, all involved personnel must have memorized the entire contents of AP, Beginner's Guide to Christmas Carols. They are to be checked for precision prior to the entering 784. Due to 784's proximity to suburban housing developments, as well as the ramifications of provoking one, patrols within 784 are to be unarmed except during a Noel event. In the case of an unexpected Noel event, members of one are to be restrained as non-violently as possible, while Foundation personnel prepare Procedure C. 784 is a neighborhood in the town of Blank, Texas. 784 is made up of 24 houses and 2 apartment buildings, all of which are decorated with Blank brand Christmas lights at a density of approximately 15 lights per square meter of housing. Okay. I was about to say I don't know how much that is, and then I saw this tank down here. 784 will always be covered between 12 and 33 centimeters of snow, though no unseasonable weather will occur above 784. All houses within 784 are occupied by a variable number of instances of one. 1 is composed mostly of adult humans, all of whom wear sweaters typically associated with holiday gift-giving. So hideous Christmas sweaters. The number of unique instances of 1 within 784 has been estimated at 300. Instances of 1 have not yet been observed engaging in reproductive activity, and no instances of 1 have ever observably been born within 784. Instances of 1 appear to age normally, though the death of an instance of 1 has never been observed by Foundation personnel. All instances of 1 express traits commonly associated with Christmas spirit throughout the year. These traits include the singing of Christmas carols, performance of plays commonly associated with the birth of Christ, and various eggnog-related festivals. Eggnog festivals? Or festivities? But still, there's not really all that many eggnog festivities. There's drinking it, and then there's spiking it with liquor, and then drinking it, and that's about it! It's just eggnog. These activities are engaged in daily, though specific activities never repeat more than once per week. So it's Animal Crossing, but Christmas. During daylight hours, instances of 1 will engage in activities such as gift exchanges and home decoration. Post-sunset activities include decorating of foreign objects as well as vandalism, which is typically holiday-themed. A Foundation supply convoy refueling overnight near 784 attracted an unprecedented response from 1, which proceeded to egg several in-transit prefabricated buildings, convert a Humvee into a sleigh, replace a shipment of fragmentation grenades with similar-appearing glass ornaments, fill the gas tank of several vehicles with blank brand eggnog, weld steel antlers onto 156 safety helmets. Foundation vehicle which was being transported to Air Blank for use as a gunnery hulk. Convoy stopped overnight near 784. All living creature within 784 not viewed as displaying adequate Christmas spirit will become the focus of all instances of 1 within approximately 4 meters, which is 12 feet-ish? Like 12.5 feet? In the case of an animal, instances of 1 will be called from the nearby house and place a holiday-themed accessory on the focus. Observations have included 15 collars red with a small bell, 7 reindeer antlers, 5 Santa hats, 1 full-body reindeer holiday outfit. Human subjects who do not meet 784's criteria for Christmas spirit will be assaulted by 1, incapacitated, and forcibly directed into the nearest household. They will not be seen until the following day, when they will exit the household dressed similarly to other instances of 1. Attempts to retrieve affected personnel have been met with great resistance on both the part of 1 and the affected individual. The criteria which 784 follows for definition of Christmas spirit appear to be extremely broad. See Addendum A for a complete log of personnel abducted and reasons assumed to reasons for abduction. Also, part of SCP-784 immediately prior to a Noel event. Approximately once per month, SCP-1 will attempt to exit 784 and enter the surrounding suburban community. This is referred to by on-site personnel as a Noel event. During a Noel event, each instance of 1 will carry a string of Christmas lights estimated to be 15 meters long. Not sure why I'm getting so stopped up right now. I apologize for all the sniffling. It just seems to happen when I'm recording this series, and no other videos do this. Ever since the episode where there was an evil tissue box, it's been like this. Let's see. Instances of 1 will attach these lights to any nearby house, which will become decoratively and functionally identical to all other houses within 784. Signs of an incoming Noel event include increased festivity during the day preceding the event, excessive eggnog consumption by a significant portion of 1, and an increase in the number of decorations present within 784. Procedure C is to be executed prior to the occurrence of a Noel event. Foundation personnel are to dress themselves in traditional Santa outfits and distribute themselves near the exit of 784. They are to begin singing Good King Wenceslas and distributing non-alcoholic eggnog to other personnel. On the arrival of 1, personnel are to distribute eggnog mixed with a mild sedative to the crowd. Personnel are to appear friendly and cheerful at all times, as 1 has proven capable of abducting personnel while nearly unconscious. Following the distribution of eggnog, personnel are encouraged to sing carols associated with peace and goodwill. Silent Night has proven most effective. Instances of 1 will begin to sing along, and personnel are to accept their choices of song. 1 will begin to fall unconscious as the night progresses. Unconscious instances of 1 will be removed to nearby houses by other instances, and personnel are not to interfere with this process. Any interference with the actions of 1 may trigger a violent response and will wake all instances of 1. Instances of 1 not affected by Procedure C are to be silently incapacitated when no longer visible from the gates of the community, and returned after all other instances of 1 have re-entered 784. In the event that Procedure C fails, Foundation personnel are to release an aerosolized sleeping gas. Foundation personnel are to restrain instances of 1 until the gas takes effect, at which time all instances are to be returned to 784. Standard cover story 139, Drunken Football, is to be used to respond to any concerns expressed by nearby residents. Addendum A. Agent Paulson on patrol within 784 wished a nearby instance of 1 Happy Holidays. Approximately 8 instances of 1 surrounded Paulson, who was unable to escape, dragged into the nearby home. Agent Matthews sang the incorrect verse of Silent Night while on night patrol within 784. Multiple instances of 1 incapacitated Matthews non-violently using a string of decorative lights. Attempted intervention by Agent Sanderson led to the involvement of a large crowd of 1, which overwhelmed both agents. Matthews and Sanderson were dragged into a nearby home, after which personnel reported hearing the sound of Christmas carols from within the home for several days. Agent Anderson collided with a lawn ornament, apparently a Santa in the style of a traditional lawn gnome. Anderson proceeded to swear violently for the next 14 seconds. 3 nearby instances of 1 held Anderson in place. A 4th emerged from a nearby home with a quart of eggnog, which Anderson was forced to ingest. Anderson collapsed and was dragged into the home from which the eggnog was retrieved. Agent Davids was presented with a gift by a child instance of 1. Davids accepted the gift but apparently failed to react with proper enthusiasm. Davids was incapacitated by a child instance of 1, which tackled his legs. Several children emerged from a nearby home before Davids recovered and then dragged Davids into the home which they had exited. That's terrifying. And then there was the chain restaurant. Which is... Okay then. If periodic global searches of government records report the registration of any restaurant with the phrase Uncle Blank's blank blank in its title, containment breaches to be reported to both the supervising researcher of 785 and the leader of Mobile Task Force Beta 3 takeout diners. Beta 3 is to secure the restaurant, 2, and prevent any civilians from entering or exiting. Following the lockdown of the immediate area, 5-kilometer radius quarantine is to be constructed around 2. All civilians inside the quarantine are to be interviewed and administered Class A or B amnestics on a case-by-case basis. The restaurant owner and all individuals knowledgeable about 2 or its origins will be personally interviewed by the overseeing Level 4 researcher. Following the interview process, the Foundation is to ensure that all media reports will have the restaurant name, 1, altered. Due to the extensive amount of time required in resolving a 785 containment breach, it is advised that standard cover story 12 gas leak be deployed. Only the current leader of Beta 3 and the overseeing researcher of 785 are to know the full title of 1. During containment operations, all operatives must have equipment possessing real-time sensory modification software that prevents them from either reading or hearing the full title. If either individual is suspected of leaking 1, an immediate interrogation is to be conducted. For purposes of experimentation, 1 instance of 2 is to be contained inside Site-23. Only disposable dudes are permitted to interact with it. 785 compromises any restaurant with a name containing the phrase Uncle Blank's blank blank. The restaurant name is designated 1, the actual restaurant is designated 2. So I guess it's a mimetic thing. Propagation of 785's effects will begin if 1 is mentioned during conversation in a large public area, such as a movie theater or sports arena. Within 1 to 6 months after this occurs, an individual who has been present at the location where initial seeding was performed will establish an instance of 2. It will be located within half a kilometer of the location where 1 was first mentioned. The personnel preference and ethnicity of the founder, influences the resulting instance of 2, allowing for a wide range of possible restaurants. For a complete listing, see document blank. Following initial seeding, a separate founder will not create a new instance of 2 unless all previously existing and publicly known instances have been shut down. Left unchecked, the popularity of 2 will grow unusually quickly. The Foundation has never observed fewer than 14 new instances within 9 months. The spread of 2 is not limited to its home city. When first discovered, blank instances of 2 were found in 3 separate cities. The effects of 785 will manifest annually on the first Friday of May, when 2 will advertise a spring special. All customers and employees of any existing instances of 2 will be affected. Starting between 1600 and 1830 hours, any customers who had previously consumed any of 2's bread or beef or bread during that particular day, designated Group A, will report to 2. Customers physically unable to report are exempt from 2's effects. Staff will proceed to stab the members of Group A 12 times, always using a bronze-tipped spear coated with data expunged. All materials saved at data expunged can be found in a typical chain restaurant. After all members of Group A have expired, employees will place their bodies on the floor. They will then turn off all appliances and produce 6 polyvinyl chloride basins of water. All customers still living, designated Group B, will be issued a large knife which is invariably composed of a bronze and blank compound. Using only their knives in their hands, all members of Group B will begin to consume the bodies of Group A. Every 30 minutes they will wash their hands using the PVC basins. The meal will last for 3 hours until all the bases have been used. Group B will return to their homes after the meal is finished. Employees will burn the remains of Group A using the same data expunge mixture used previously. After the completion of all activity, members of Group B will behave normally. Most members have a somewhat inaccurate recollection of the evening's events. Customer reviews of 2 have typically skyrocketed after this event. Addendum A. Despite the Foundation's best efforts to remove 1 from public knowledge, instances of 2 continue to arise. It appears to be impossible to apprehend all civilians who unwittingly spread SCP-785-1. Furthermore, the possibility of a deliberate third-party propagation of 1 cannot be eliminated. Okay. That's weird. So, this has been Anachi Sasuke with a spatula. In the next episode, we'll be reading Funnel Factor 12, The Plane That Never Was, Magma Carp, which isn't the same thing as Magikarp, Internet Savvy Predator, that's going to be uncomfortable, and Blood? If you liked it, a like to subscribe will be groovy. If you didn't, you'll need to do either one of those things, and I will see y'all in the next one. Later.